find 2025's plate? Mintel, experts in what consumers want and why, predicts food trends for the year at the start of every year. Let's look back at how accurate they were with their predictions for 2025. The next post will discuss predictions for 2026, so stay tuned for that. But for now, let's look back. Mintel expected to see more focus on blood sugar and hormone health than in 2024, and thought food and drink, I might just say food at some point in this post, but I do mean drinks as well. They thought that food and drink would play a larger role in management of mental health. They also thought there would be an increase in diversified ingredient sourcing, and humanization of technology would be essential, especially for consumers apprehensive about technology being used to create, modify, and produce food. The four main things they predicted were fundamentally nutritious, rural rebellion, chain reaction, and hybrid harvests. When they say fundamentally nutritious, they're referring to the emergence of weight loss drugs like Ozempic. Rural rebellion was referring to consumers being perfectly imperfect, gravitating towards brands that help them break food and drink rules, such as Liquid Death, a canned water brand marketing water like a heavy metal brand, edgy, with dark humor, and a slogan, Murder Your Thirst. Oatly are another brand breaking these rules. They're an oat milk brand you've probably heard of, with fun, conversational packaging and outspoken branding such as, it's like milk, but made for humans. Chain reaction was the industry needing to encourage consumers to welcome and trust new origins, ingredients, and flavors that would merge locally and globally. Hybrid harvests is what Mintel called the fact food and drink companies would need to show how technology and agriculture work together to benefit consumers, farmers, and the environment. Let's delve into these a bit further. So, going into fundamentally nutritious first. The emergence of GLP-1 weight loss medications was predicted to inspire consumers to reevaluate their relationship between food and medicine. Mintel predicts brands would have to streamline their health claims to only the critical nutrients they contain. Simplified claims highlighting protein, fiber, vitamins, and mineral content was predicted to appeal to people using weight loss drugs, as well as the majority of consumers who define their diets based on how food makes them feel. Experts at Mintel expected to see an increase in nutrient-dense product innovations to improve short and long-term health benefits. Increased adoption of personal data collection was also predicted to occur, as was attention paid to blood sugar and hormone health, two metrics key to how GLP-1 weight loss drugs work. Increasing interest in blood sugar was predicted to increase demand for low glycemic products as well as blood sugar monitoring, which was mainly just done by diabetics in the past. In terms of hormonal health, brands were predicted to support people, men and women, through age-related hormonal changes. Looking a little deeper into rural rebellion, as society increasingly accepted imperfections, Mintel thought food and drink brands could target these, what they call imperfectly imperfect consumers. They could target them with innovation that breaks the invisible rules around food and drink consumption. Brands were predicted to lean into how consumers want to, or actually do, consume food and drink, rather than how they feel they air quotes should. Air quotes because there is no one way to do something when it comes to nutrition. It's very personalized, as much as personalized nutrition isn't quite there yet, as I said in my last post. It was predicted brands would try to break down continued social stigmas surrounding health issues that were less talked about up until this year, such as mental health issues. It was predicted packaging and marketing materials mentioning the role of food and drink in mental health management would become more common. It was also thought sustainable ingredients unfamiliar or less familiar to consumers could be used in new products being developed to get consumers to pay slightly more for these sustainable items. They could be marketed around their unique taste. Dissecting chain reaction, the rise in climate-related production challenges and geopolitical events were increasing consumers' food bills and awareness of how distant world events can affect their meal plans. In an increasingly volatile world, food brands must clearly communicate how adjustments from local to global sourcing were made and how that benefited the consumer. To do this, it was predicted food cross-country industry, multinational collaboration, and scalable tech solutions would be required. However, Mintel noted these are not without challenges and said brands must be ready with solutions to minimize the consequences consumers face personally. It was thought more ingredients would be sourced from alternative and potentially more reliable regions, such as olive oil from Algeria or Peru. By highlighting the benefits of diversified sourcing, such as nuanced flavor variations, it was felt brands could transform consumers' belief around local products being best into more nuanced arguments. However, it was also recognized consumers' local-centric identities would be transformed by social media, immigration, and travel. Hybrid harvests. At the beginning of 2025, many consumers were not ready to embrace increasing use of technology in food production, inevitable to meet food supply demands and challenges. Consumers were open to technological advances that enhance convenience. Mintel predicted brands tapping into this and telling consumers how nature and technology complement or even enhance each other, such as improving taste, increasing nutrition, making supply more consistent, or improving the environment. These brands were predicted to do well. It was also predicted to be super important that any new technology was humanized. For example, what the German juice brand Eckes Graninis, excuse pronunciation, what they did in their marketing video announcing their partnership with Microsoft. They drew attention to how AI makes a positive difference in their producers' lives, not only how it increases production efficiency. How accurate were these predictions of Mintel's? Let's see. Mintel's predictions for 2025 have played out unevenly. The most accurate forecasts were cultural. The rise of rural rebellion, where consumers moved away from rigid food norms, is clearly visible across markets. Brands using identity-driven messaging have flourished, and people are increasingly choosing products that blur boundaries between health, indulgence, and function. Similarly, they predicted chain reaction, and the more globally diverse flavors and alternative ingredient sourcing have partly materialized. Social media-driven curiosity and climate-related supply pressures have pushed some brands to experiment with new origins and bolder flavors. Early signs of the hybrid harvest trend, blending of food technology, AI, and agriculture, are also emerging, particularly in discussions around AI-formulated foods and precision fermentation. If you want to post about that, let me know. I'm happy to go into fermentation, but I did talk about it in my text post published on the 19th of October. Several predictions have not yet reached the scale Mintel anticipated. The idea weight loss medication would reshape how people eat and prompt a turn towards fundamentally nutritious foods has not produced an industry-wide transformation. Economic pressures continue to drive many consumers towards familiar, energy-dense, affordable products. Similarly, while food tech innovations are accelerating, mainstream adoption remains slow. Regulatory and trust barriers persist, making humanization of tech more aspirational than realized. Ultimately, Mintel's behavioral and cultural predictions have proved more robust than the structural ones. Their 2025 trends offer a useful lens, but real-world change is proving patchy, slower, and highly dependent on cost of living, supply chain stability, and consumer trust.